Gaming, it's not just for kids anymore. While video games have often been associated with lighthearted fun and family-friendly content, there's an entire world of games that are far from child-friendly. Today, we're diving deep into some of the most shocking, disturbing, and controversial games ever made. The ones that push the boundaries of what's acceptable. These games are not for kids. Before we jump into this dark world, don't forget to subscribe for more engaging content on gaming, pop culture, and everything in between. And if you're ready to uncover the gritty details of mature gaming, let's dive in. What makes a game mature or adult only? Before exploring the most controversial games, it's important to understand what qualifies a game as mature, M, or adult only, AO, according to the Entertainment Software Rating Board, ESRB. The ESRB is a regulatory body responsible for assigning age and content ratings to video games to help parents make informed decisions. Mature, M, rated games. These games are recommended for players age 17 and up. They usually contain intense violence, blood, strong language, or suggestive themes. While teens or adults may be able to handle such content, younger children are often unprepared for the explicit themes present in M-rated games. Adult-only, AO-rated games. The ESRB reserves the AO rating for the most explicit games, those containing prolonged scenes of graphic violence or sexual content intended for players aged 18 and older. Most major platforms refuse to publish AO games, making them rare but often infamous when they do appear. Educational tip for parents. By paying attention to these ratings, parents can better understand why some games may not be appropriate for younger players. It's not only about the visuals, but also about the themes that can affect young minds in unexpected ways. The most controversial games. Let's dive into some of the most controversial, mature games that have sparked outrage, concern, or even outright bans around the world. Viewer discretion is advised. These games contain shocking elements that aren't for the faint-hearted. Grand Theft Auto series, pushing every boundary. One of the most notorious game series of all time, Grand Theft Auto, GTA, has become a household name, known both for its high-quality open-world design and for its unapologetically mature content. The GTA games allow players to live out a life of crime, stealing cars, robbing banks, and engaging in violence with no significant consequences. While some players see it as a fun escape, critics argue that it glorifies crime and violence, especially because players are rewarded for committing illegal actions. Most controversial moments. The hot coffee mod in GTA San Andreas, which unlocked a hidden minigame containing sexually explicit content, became infamous and resulted in the game being pulled from shelves and re-released with an M rating instead of AO. GTA has remained a staple of mature gaming, continuing to push the boundaries with each release. Manhunt, horror with no restraint. Released by Rockstar Games, Manhunt is infamous for its extreme violence. The player takes on the role of a death row inmate forced to participate in a series of brutal killings, which are captured by snuff film directors. What made Manhunt particularly controversial was its execution mechanics, allowing players to perform graphic and brutal kills. Why it's shocking? Manhunt was so disturbing that several countries banned it outright. Critics argue that the game blurs the line between gameplay and gratuitous violence. While some horror fans admire the game's gritty atmosphere, others believe it goes too far by turning violence into a reward system. Postal Series, where satire meets chaos. Postal has become one of the most controversial video game series due to its blend of dark humor and extreme violence. In Postal 2, players can use a wide array of weapons to attack innocent bystanders in creatively brutal ways. The game's developers argue that it's satire, meant to reflect society's violent tendencies, but many feel it's simply a way to encourage players to commit unprovoked violence. Most controversial moments. From being able to use a cat as a gun silencer to the option of committing acts against civilians, Postal is known for crossing every line. Banned in multiple countries, Postal has earned its place as one of the most shocking games ever created. Outlast, psychological horror to the max. Outlast is a survival horror game that puts players in the shoes of a journalist exploring an abandoned asylum filled with deranged inmates. While its gameplay revolves around avoiding enemies rather than fighting, Outlast still manages to be deeply disturbing through its intense gore, unsettling characters, and terrifying scenarios. Why it's shocking? Outlast takes psychological horror to an extreme, dealing with themes of torture, mental illness, and abuse. Many gamers praised it for creating an atmosphere of dread and tension, while others felt it went overboard with gratuitous violence and disturbing scenarios. Agony, a journey through hell. Agony is a game that literally takes players through hell, with grotesque imagery inspired by dark visions of the underworld. As a tormented soul, players must navigate horrifying scenes filled with torture and demonic entities. While the concept is unique, the game's explicit and disturbing visuals make it difficult for some to stomach. Most controversial moments. The scenes in Agony are designed to shock, with graphic depictions of torture, dismemberment, and depravity. Many found it to be overwhelming, while some horror enthusiasts appreciated the attempt to depict a vivid interpretation of hell. Agony faced heavy criticism, especially for scenes that depicted graphic sexual violence, leading to censorship in certain regions. Thrill Kill, banned before release. Thrill Kill is a notorious game that was banned before it was even released. Developed in the 1990s, it was intended to be a 4-player fighting game, but the premise involved bizarre characters engaging in extreme violence in a sadistic setting. The game was ultimately canceled by its publisher, but it leaked online and became a cult classic. Why it's shocking? Thrill Kill featured a disturbing art style, explicit violence, and themes that many found tasteless. It became controversial not only because of its violent content, but also because of its sadomasochistic overtones, which were too much for mainstream gaming at the time. Why these games aren't for kids? Each of these games contains content that can be shocking, disturbing, or even traumatizing for young minds. Let's break down why these games are inappropriate for children. Excessive violence. Studies suggest that exposure to extreme violence can desensitize young players or potentially increase aggression. Many of these games allow players to act out violent fantasies in detail, which can be alarming for developing minds. Mature themes. Games like Outlast and Agony delve into intense psychological horror, mental illness, and dark themes that can leave a lasting impact on impressionable players. Sexual content and objectification. Some games, like Grand Theft Auto, include explicit sexual content, and games like Agony have been criticized for objectifying female characters, which could negatively impact children's perceptions of relationships and gender roles. Morally complex decisions. Games like Manhunt and Postal involve morally questionable acts, rewarding players for violence without consequences. Younger players may struggle to differentiate between virtual choices and real-life ethics. Parent tip: understanding the psychological impact of these themes is key. While adults may enjoy dark narratives, children are often more susceptible to internalizing these experiences, leading to confusion or distress. Conclusion: while video games are a fantastic source of entertainment, it's essential to remember that not every game is suitable for every player. The games we've discussed are known for their mature content and controversial themes, often pushing the limits of what's acceptable. For parents, understanding the ESRB rating system and taking an active role in selecting games for their children is critical. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of controversial games, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell for more engaging content on gaming and media.